Bitcoin Liberty Live. Are we episode 35?
I don't
Probably.
know, man. You're keeping track of this stuff.
Yeah. We just do them every week. Let's see. Yeah, 35, I guess.
Yeah,
You've traveled.
I've
You've
traveled.
landed.
I am now in the land of entrapment.
We're doing the virtual thing now, but it's
Yeah,
good.
kind
It
of
works.
plugging along. I don't know. Oh, good
Um,
old New Mexico. Gotta. I don't know. It's nice having like sunny weather and stuff like that, but
oh, man.
it's dry. Went to the driving range yesterday. I kind of forgot like that thin air makes it a little like all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I can really hit the ball far. Oh wait, I'm a mile high.
The aerodynamics are different.
Well, just less air to go through, right? So
I guess so.
that's why like the Denver Rockies. That's why they lead the league in home runs every year. Mile High City, no air, just goes flying out. Man, look at this. I'm an
Well,
old man.
70s would be nice. Yeah, I mean, our snow melted, but 40s feels warm when you're used to 30s out here. And
Do you
it
have
just
snow?
feels dreary, but it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
December.
Well, the sun stays out a little longer here, and it's bright and sunny. I'm getting that good Bitcoin life going.
Bitcoin Life
Yeah.
live now. Yeah, so I'll be excited to hear how that all goes as you plug away at stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift, but the thing I really got to get going is my little like website and my super secret device. Get that
Yeah.
out into the world. I made a couple more tweaks. I found out I can do orange anodizing though, which was pretty exciting.
that'd be
I'm like,
cool.
hey, this is
Perfect.
cool. Yeah,
Orange
But,
anodized.
yeah. I'm trying like one more little tweak. I'm trying to do like what they call high precision or like super high tolerance kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because those little the ones that are made with the MJF, the multi-jet fusion printing, like the variability on it is like 10,000ths of an inch. So it leaves a lot of wiggle room in there. I'm trying to make it so it's like as precise as I can possibly make it. So that's going to show up here on January 9th, and then hopefully that'll be the last tweak I have to make, and I can just order everything and get it all set up and get rocking and rolling here. But I'm going to start ordering. Oh, and I got my laser printer too, or my laser
Oh, yeah.
printer, but laser engraver.
So you can
So
etch stuff.
yeah, well, like the little rotary piece is going to come in on Monday, so I bought like a piece of aluminum tube that's about a foot long, and I'm going to cut that up into little chunks and just figure out how to do laser engraving now, I guess. I don't know. I mean, Christ, so much ridiculousness going into this. But yeah,
But when it's
coming
done,
soon.
quality over rush.
Oh
Done.
yeah, like so much. I mean, I think in days past I would have tried to rush things out. Like historically speaking, that's kind of the way I run with things. Like I just go, just go, just go, just go, just get it done, get it done, get it done. And this is the first time I've really sort of pumped the brakes and said, oh, well, let's just get it right and then put it out. But it's also that little thing like, well, I got all this stuff going out and nothing coming in. And I need to start getting stuff coming in. So hopefully this is all worth it at the end of it all. But all my little punches came in, so they got like just these big, huge boxes of shit all over the place. And it's like, oh, Christ. I got to hurry up and get this done.
The salvo is ready. In the chamber, almost ready to press the trigger.
Yeah. Well, right now I feel like more like I'm loading the magazine, and I'm just
Loading
about
the magazine.
But yeah, got to look into, I mean, it's a trip kind of moving down here. Like I was looking into like getting my concealed carry permit, and I transferred my title and got my license switched over. But, like my social security card, like a number is sort of faded. It's kind of hard to read. And like, we can't take this. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I couldn't get my real ID. I had to just get like the local ding dong ID. So now I have to go back to the DMV and do that all over again to get the real ID. And it's just like, oh, Christ. And then, like, I'm trying to change my insurance over, and that won't work. I mean, it's all this just, like, pain in the ass stuff. I always forget about when you move, like, cross state lines and stuff. It's like, God damn it.
Right. It's funny how the Social Security card, like when it was all created, it wasn't to, like, be
identification.
human ID numbers.
Well, it said on the card, like, back in the day, it would say not for identification purposes. And now it's like your sole, that's like your government number,
but that's all we use it for anymore. And it's on this little piece of paper that, some people keep it in their wallets and all that. And it's like this thin paper that
Yeah,
just,
yeah. It's
like, don't lose it.
and don't laminate it. It's like,
Don't laminate it. Don't do anything to it. Just keep safe, this little piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that I went to go get a replacement card, and it says, your information doesn't match the information we have on file. I'm like, how? How is that even remotely possible that it doesn't match? And, it's like now I got to go down to the Social Security office, which is like 30 miles from here for some bizarre reason. And just drives me crazy. The funny thing is like way back in the day, my parents sent me down to get my Social Security card. They go, you take care of it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I just put like the way it said, what's your name? And I said, well, Dan, right? Because that's how I went when I was a kid. I was like 7 years old or something like that. Then I get the card and it said Dan on it. My dad was like, why'd you use Dan? I'm like, because that's my name. He goes, you're supposed to use your legal name. Like, I'm 7, dude. Like, why are you yelling at me for not knowing your stupid government? Like, why didn't you take care of this? You're the adult here. Like, make sure this is right, dum-dum. And so
it's official now.
Yeah, but now I figure, well, if I got to get a new card anyway, I might as well get my name fixed on it. But they keep saying, like, so I said, well, I just need to change my name. You go, okay, well, send your name change documentation. I'm like, no, I need to, like, fix my name. Whatever. So I think it's unavoidable. I get to just go down to the Social Security office and sit there for, like, half a day just waiting for bureaucracy to be bureaucratic and super annoying. Did you see the crypto safe harbor stuff from the IRS? Have you seen that one yet?
I've seen some pontifications around the law change. I don't really know the details yet. I bookmarked some stuff to look at later, and I'm just like, oh, taxes is coming.
I wouldn't wait too much later. You got 9 days to hit the safe harbor, and then you're borked. So it's really funny watching people that have been like sort of fast and loose with crypto taxes and stuff. And even if you haven't been, it's still sort of annoying. But if you have been, big trouble. I would highly recommend you investigate that further because.
Do you have a little brief breakdown on what that is?
Well, basically, what you have to do is you have to establish all of your assets, and then what it used to be is like they would do a global allocation, right? They would just say like, regardless of wherever your crypto is held, that's we just kind of put it all in one bucket. Now they're making you segregate it by wallet, right? And you have to identify the cost basis up front and say, this is the cost basis I'm going to use moving forward. If you don't hit that, then you run into all kinds of problems next year. Anytime you sell it after that, you've created a huge headache for yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's you basically have to, for someone like you, it's Bitcoin only and has always been Bitcoin only. I don't know. Did you shitcoin in the past? Or
no. 2019.
Oh, yeah. Then you should be fine. But you still have to get into the safe harbor. You still have to go through the steps. And basically you just need to account for all your stuff, identify what wallets are where, and what your cost basis is going to be moving forward. And
so the IRS wants to know all your wallets.
Mm-hmm.
You declare them, and then going forward, they're tracking off that.
Yeah, well, they're going to – the thing is at that point you – because whatever, if you're self-custodial, then there's no reporting agency to it, right? But you still have to identify the wallet, or else you can't ever sell it. So I don't know. It's it's just more annoying. I'm hoping that when the Trump administration gets in, they actually get rid of the income tax, and we won't have to mess with this crap anymore.
Capital gains on Bitcoin.
We'll just get rid of all of that stuff. There's a plausible argument to be made for like a tax to pay for roads, right? There's a plausible argument to be made for a tax to pay for police or fire or any of that kind of stuff, courts. But income tax is just straight up theft. That's just like, oh, you made some? We're just going to take that from you, right?
Right.
And it's, but all it does is it's just another inflationary mechanism, right? All it does is just make it so everybody has to increase costs of everything across the board, so they can make up for the shit that the government's stealing, So you would hope at some point that people would kind of wrap their head around this stuff, but they just can't seem to do it, you know.
Well, I mean, and if the IRS wants to get involved in all the wallet transactions, it's equivalent to like, it's one thing to reconcile stuff with your bank, and the IRS is interested in like what's your revenue. Okay, but if they're getting into Bitcoin transactions, you're getting into the level of people using layer twos and stuff, and little transactions and zaps and blah 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 blah. It's like, for what purpose or for what good is knowing all that for? And
well, because they say there's a tax gap, right? Like every year there's a gap between what Treasury says they should collect and what they actually collect. And so this is one of the ways they're trying to close that gap, right? Because there's all this like, there's no third-party reporting for like your business revenue and expenses, right? Like that's just self-identified. And so that's a great big black hole for them where they go, there's money in here somewhere, we need to get it. And, people do their level best to try and minimize that, hide it, whatever. But they also look at things like investments. If you're buying MicroStrategy stock or something like that, like all that stuff, the broker is required by law to submit forms that say, hey, this is what he bought, this is where it came from, this is how much it costs, this is how much they made, this is how much they lost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, in crypto land, and I think they're pretty well aware, like, there's legions of people that have made a lot of money on crypto and have tried to, like, avoid paying taxes on it or just don't declare it.
Yeah.
And, but that's the thing I've been saying all along is, like, people will go, oh, yeah, you should spend your Bitcoin and, use it for microtransactions and buy coffee. I'm like, every one of those is a taxable event. And you have to account for all that shit, If you go, oh, no, they don't care about that, I'm like, 100% they do. They absolutely do. And if you think they don't, like, it's, whether or not they're going to go track you down and try and find you because you bought a cup of coffee with your Bitcoin
right,
and declare your capital gains on it or capital loss or whatever, I don't know. But using it as a transactional medium, I just go, you're just asking for trouble. And I know it's a little frustrating for the Bitcoin maxis to hear, but I go, hey, dude, it's like, it's just the way it is. I mean, you live in America. That's the way the IRS is set up, and those guys have lots of guns and lots of people, and So
well, I'm hoping that in the next 4 years here, the approach to managing that or needing to regulate that becomes sensible, so that like, okay, Bitcoin may not, the base layer is not going to be the most effective medium of exchange. Like not that you can't right now, but like it functions, but just make it sensible, make it work. I don't know. Not every little zap you do is like some sort of business type expense, or I don't know. Just it's like make it make sense.
Well, I mean that's kind of the trouble is like if you treat it as a capital asset, which they do, then every time you buy and sell it, you're creating taxable events, and every time you dispose of it, you're creating a taxable event. So it's I don't know. I don't know how they fix it other than to take it out of the, to make it a non-capital asset or to make it like gold,
Yeah.
But I think even gold, I think that's all taxable. Like you can get capital gains on gold gains. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to make it unless you make it legal tender. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. Like I don't see us drifting into El Salvador land. So. I don't know, but
when it's weird to say, like, yeah, like you said, you have 9 days to declare your safe harbor stuff, and how many people are really going to do that, or even people that would well-intendedly do that, but don't do it next week? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Well, it's the law that's been on the books since May, so it's just the time, the window is running short right now. I mean, it's for the degens out there, like all the crypto baboons, they're screwed. I mean, those guys, like it was kind of like what I was doing 2 years ago when I had like all the stupid staking and like all this DeFi shit going on. Like, if you try to unpack that now, that's going to be an absolute bloody nightmare. So, I mean, the best you can do is sort of like try and consolidate wallets. And for like someone, I mean, like I said, if you've just been buying and holding, it's going to be less of an issue, but you still have to identify it and just say what your cost basis is. And um,
I'm imagining the IRS trying to regulate that. I see a lot of people I know, they're using whatever, crypto.com, Coinbase, whatever, Robinhood even, and they don't know what's tax or not for them. It's just like, oh, I can easily buy and sell. And that's as far as it goes. I have an app, and they don't think of it as anything other than a game or an investment, but not like they're not thinking of the IRS.
I know. Well, I mean, that's kind of why I've been sort of like preaching that for as long as I have, is like they do. The IRS is watching. They give a shit. And part of that law change back in May makes all those entities now reportable entities. They need to report, right? So they're going to report what you've been doing. And if your taxes don't match that, then all of a sudden you're now vulnerable to, the long reach of the IRS. So like I said, you got problems, but for Bitcoiners, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And if you never sell, it doesn't really matter, right? But at some point, somebody somewhere will probably want to sell some of their Bitcoin. And
someday you go to like retire or live off your Bitcoin standard world, and you're like, you start moving it, and then you're not interested in the IRS, but they're apparently randomly then interested in you, and it's
exactly.
Like, wait. No, I just own this, right? Oh, no, we steal from you. You remember, we steal from you.
Yeah, we steal. Yeah, we steal at the point of a gun. So, yeah.
Thinking of regulatory type stuff, and I don't know the rules. So I was, where I work, I was having a good conversation with our finance director and talking about, my organization's budget and grants and just the next fiscal year, and all's good and everything's like just hunky dory. And as I'm leaving, one of the staff in that office is like aware enough of Bitcoin to be interested, and I've chatted with her a little bit about it. And on my way out, I'm like, oh, hey, did you check out that thing on Bitcoin we were talking about last week, and just kind of making banter about Bitcoin?
Yeah.
The finance director, I'd had a very brief talk about Bitcoin with him 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was on par with tulips and lottery tickets for him. And it's been a little while, and I just let it go. And he looks at me and he goes, Bitcoin? And I go, yeah, I'm still doing Bitcoin. Like jovially, no big deal, just making banter about it. And he goes, oh, I can tell he's still like Bitcoin. No.
Tulips and lottery tickets.
And and he goes, you're still doing Bitcoin? And jokingly, quasi-jokingly, I'm like, Bitcoin is all I do. And he goes, oh, and I go, okay, hey, what if our entity, which has, quite a number of millions of dollars in a treasury and various things, I said, what if we just put 1% of the treasury into Bitcoin as a very low risk, call it a hedge, call it whatever you want, but a kind of diversification, 1% into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like that's not too hard, but it would be a significant bit in my mind for what Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
I call it 1%, just like nothing, a little 1% and a little Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, we can't do it. I said, why? I said, why couldn't we do that?
Yeah.
He said, there's laws that say that, I think it's government entities, or was it public entities? I want to say it was government entities cannot put their money into speculative assets. Cannot be speculative assets.
That's patently false what he's telling you, by the way, because when I was looking into this, like, the thing is I mean, that's just a reflexive sort of nonsense, because I think it was the same guy that you're talking about that was, when I was talking about doing that stuff at my employer, I think he was one of the guys they talked to and like, oh, you can't do that because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bullshit. Like, that's absolutely not true. There's zero legal barrier to adopting Bitcoin. Like, if you wanted to go hop into some sort of, the thing is in terms of speculative assets, real estate is a speculative asset. So that's, just saying that right out of the gate is false. But,
Right.
There's stuff that says they shouldn't be investing in like crypto, like sort of broad speaking. There are some things that say you shouldn't do that, but it's all recommendations, right? But the thing is in the United States, Bitcoin is treated as real property, and there's very clear legislation that says, county entities, government entities, public entities have unlimited capacity to buy real property. Like you can just go buy it, and there's nothing stopping anyone from doing that. So it's, when they say that kind of stuff, it's like, it's just this reflexive, like, man, I don't like it. I don't understand it. I don't want to talk about it. So this is how I'm going to say no. But it's just, the thing is, as a government employee, none of these people is rewarded for thinking, right? They are rewarded for just following the herd, keeping their head down, not making waves. Like, there's a reason why government is the most inefficient sort of boondoggle on the planet. It's because the people that work there are inefficient boondogglers. They're just not, they're not active thinkers. They're not people that are trying to improve the world. They're just sort of like,
Yeah, I could tell he obviously didn't want to, but he had kind of a deflection on why, and he was citing laws or a rule that says it names in there crypto, and I was like, okay, well, other states are starting to do it. Pension funds are doing it.
Right.
They'll maybe clarity comes in the law later for us, but I just said it's something to keep in mind. Like, I don't know the law. Is this a federal thing? Is this an Oregon thing? Because I see other states doing it. I didn't push it. I didn't argue.
There is no law. That's the whole point. There is no law. There is no law that says that he couldn't buy Bitcoin with county funds right now. There is zero law. They're just making shit up, dude. So,
yeah.
But, it's sort of expected and anticipated from that sort of caliber of human being. Like, they just, no, I don't, I don't get it. I didn't think about it, so it's not a good idea.
I could tell I wasn't going to get anywhere for now, so it was kind of like, I was like, well, let's revisit this later. We can talk about it, but hey, I'm always open to talking about it if we want to look into it, or if you had questions, if you wanted to ask me. But he was nice about it, but I left thinking, in his mind, he's like, oh my goodness, Fritz is crazy, or I don't know what. Time goes by and he goes, maybe I planted a seed. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Seeds. The only seeds
I'm just planting seeds.
Okay. Zero chance. That dude is just that thought. You may as well have told him, like, hey, why don't we allocate 1% of our treasury budget to Beanie Babies? Like, that's as far as
that's where he's at with it.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
and some of the questions, so it was kind of funny because it wasn't just me and the finance director.
Right.
It's his whole staff are sitting around. They were in that day and they're kind of listening, and mostly they're kind of curious or interested or kind of like don't understand, but are like not anti. They don't know why, but they're clearly not up on what makes sense or what works. They don't know, and so one is like, well, I heard they say there's 21 million, but I heard actually that went down, or there's less of them now. And I was like, no. I mean, people lose their keys. People can lose their Bitcoin, I guess, if they're not being careful or responsible or whatever. Should
the
happen.
risks of voting.
Yeah,
voting risks out there.
But I said, no. The code is decentralized and protected, and is a huge global network. Like, the rules are not changing, and it continues to work and run. And I guess you want to say the supply dropped, like, that's deflationary. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But there was FUD oriented confusion over, well, but I heard about this, and well, I worried about this, and quantum computing, whatever. And it's like, I'm starting at zero here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Well, that you may as well just tattoo HFSP right across your forehead. Just tell them fuck you.
that's the thing. I left just like, well, hey, get back to me in a year. See how maybe we have the same conversation, and again, you tell us how late we are.
Yeah, dude. Well, the thing, I mean, it was the same conversation in the '90s with the internet, right? Like the same exact personalities had the same exact, reflexive. Just I don't get it, I don't like it, I don't understand, so I'm just going to shit on it. And they, by the time it was readily like widespread and just sort of taken for granted, is the only time they got on board with it. And they never really got on board. They just started using it because everyone else was, But if you were the kind of person that was like trying to invest back then, and you were trying to tell people like, hey, you should really think about buying some Microsoft or some Amazon, you would have had people go, Microsoft, Amazon? Why, that's so stupid. Why would you do that? Oh, my God. I heard Microsoft's going to go out of business. I heard, Amazon, like, they didn't make any money last year. They keep losing money. They're this. I mean, it's just like, it'd be this endless parade of fucking stupid arguments that you just be like, oh, Christ. And trying to convince them to, like, lead a pack somewhere is like zero chance. Like, these are not leaders. They're not thought leaders. These are not people that are, forging new ground. They're just reflexive, like Chicken Littles, and they will not step outside of that zone until it's abundantly clear and abundantly safe that they can. And then they'll never even acknowledge that you ever said anything about it. They'll just be like, oh, well, I guess I could have, but,
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, the internet and being late and whatever. I mean, because one of the comments was, it's because it's dropped since then, but it had hit it was that day where it had hit like 108,000 and then dropped down to 106 and 5 and whatever. Now we're on the 98K thing again, but I haven't checked the price today. Anyway,
98K.
They're like, oh, it's $100,000, like, oh, like kind of like we're late. It's expensive, and I said, well, it's less than $1 million, so you're not late. And I said, also think of it like if it's money of the internet. Think about how the internet started to roll out, and you'd be like, was anyone like late getting on the internet? It didn't go away. No one was late. You just you might have drug your feet or fought it, but you got on the internet.
Yeah.
The internet's not going away, so no one's late getting on the internet. You just might as well get on the internet and start figuring it out. Yeah. So it's like that. Think of it as like the internet. The internet's not going away. The internet's here. You don't remember being late to the internet, other than it confused you at first, perhaps.
Well, it scared everybody. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is they're just scared. They go, I don't get it. I'm scared, so I'm just going to say no. I'm going to come up with dumb reasons why I don't want to, But, I mean, for most of these people, if you just said, hey, let's try a new restaurant, you're going to get the same sort of pushback, right? Like, they just can't, anything out of their comfort zone, they just go, no.
Yeah. And typical of, like, public sector, government, conservative, just don't be crazy. We're not, we're keeping it steady. We're keeping it on track. We don't like a lot of change. It's transparent and fiscally responsible because it's tax money. I get it. But the courage is so low, or the willingness to, even when the organization I work for has had like director conference retreats to discuss, like, think outside the box. What do we want to do? What does the county want to do? We're sitting on this money. We have these opportunities, the threats and opportunities and risks and all that. We're going through everything, SWOT analysis, and it's like, think outside the box.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so how about this not so crazy idea, and not to go crazy with it, but a little bit.
Yeah.
But categorically, it's not within their paradigm right now.
It's not in their box. When they say think outside the box, they mean find something in the box that we haven't thought of before. That's all they're looking like. They don't. They want everything in the box. Anything. They're just. I hate hearing that from government agencies. They just think outside the box. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you are 100% going to shoot down anything that is outside of the box. Like they just can't process it.
Yeah, like we got a whiteboard here. We're brainwashing. We got a whiteboard. We're writing down brainwashing brainwashing, brainstorming.
It's closer. No,
Well,
brainwashing.
brainstorming. We're just brainstorming here. Just throw out ideas. No bad ideas. We're just
Right.
writing it down. Yeah, let's.
Here's an idea. Oh, that's a bad idea. We don't want to write
So
that down.
then you mentioned Bitcoin. It's like, well, we're not going to write that one down.
Yeah.
It doesn't really fit. We're
Yeah.
brainstorming, but we're not going to write that one down.
We're not going to brainstorm outside of the box. Yeah. I mean, I wish they were conservative and concerned about the public trust and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's sort of that's the face that they present to the world. But the reality is they're entrenched, embedded, and like zero risk appetite for anything that doesn't fit what everyone else is doing. You know, I mean, they are the quintessential bots. They're the quintessential NPCs. They're just like, nope, beep boop, nope, can't think of, you know. It's like if you went up to a video game character and said, hey, come up with a novel idea for something, and it just beep boop. Oh, would you like to buy a thing? I was like, no, dude.
Yeah.
So
I play the role of I'm the video game character who's like that eccentric, maybe weird, I don't know, nutty professor guy who is always willing to talk about Bitcoin, and people can kind of go from eye rolls to like, he's always kind of interesting. In my imaginations, I have no idea, but I think people variously are kind of like, they don't know what to do about it, but if they ever hear about it, whatever, in their head, maybe it's like, well, there's that guy. Oh, Fritz is always, it's been years now, whatever. Yeah. Maybe it sinks in someday. I don't know. But
I don't know, man. I mean, all of their stuff is confirmation bias. Like, once they have an idea in their head, everything they see just confirms what they already believe. So, getting people to break out of confirmation bias is like next to impossible. I mean, just peruse Twitter for 10 minutes and you can just see, legions of confirmation bias. I mean, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of weeks ago we were talking about like getting fed up with trying to orange pill people and stuff, and at the time I was like, yeah, like share the love, But then it's like you kind of look at it and you just think about the burden that you go through of just having people like disregard you. I mean, that's all sort of ego stuff anyway, right? Like who cares what someone thinks about you, right? But yeah, it's such a monumental task for people that will never get it. No matter what you do, no matter how you sort of try and shake it out, they're bots, man. Like you're trying to teach the NPC that works at the vendor thing, like you're walking up to the bartender in the NPC world of your video game and trying to get them to make you a new drink. Like it just isn't going to happen,
Yeah.
I say, here's the recipe. They go, we have martinis, and that's all. They just whatever they're programmed to do, they do. Period.
Yeah, you're an adventurer. You're trying to rally a group to go with you on a bounty, and the bartender is not going on your adventure. He's going to sit there and continue to follow his script. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only have so much time and energy as a human, and I dedicate what I can to Bitcoin, and to that extent, if I'm just like that guy who does that people know does that, and if they want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. I can't make too much of my life trying to convince anybody anymore. I went through ebbs and flows of phases where I felt like I need people to know. I want people to know. I'd love people to know. I'll get them off zero, and I'm happy to do that. But man, when I face any negative considerations or FUD or whatever, I don't mind discussing it, but I no longer care about convincing anybody anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it traces like straight to the idea of like awareness campaigns, right? Like if people only knew fill in the blank thing was happening, people would do something about it, but they never do. They don't care. Like it doesn't matter. You could say, hey, did you know that Israel is bombing Gaza right now and they've killed millions of people? As soon as everyone sees what horrific things Gaza, so there's these whole legions of people that their whole life is built around like awareness. I just need to let people know that some horrible thing is happening or some terrible thing or, And I would say the return on that investment is zero, right? Like people just, there's so many things that are going wrong in the world. No one gives a shit, They'll
Yeah.
just sit there and it's like, that's sort of like almost a liberal mindset, right? Of like these people that are, we just need to make people aware of racism or this or that, or, global warming, like the people throwing paint and soup on, whatever. They're just like, if everyone knew, just if people knew, then we would stop the madness. And I go, nope, they don't care. No one gives a flying fuck. They just, are you in the way right now? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna drag you off the road if I can. But same thing with Bitcoin. You go, hey, this is all House of Cards and this and that. And you got to be aware. And they don't care. Can I buy my Pop-Tarts? Yeah. Then I don't care what you have to say.
I mean, I think some people that, they have their own sense of values, or, people want a purpose, or that there's big stuff happening in the world. Okay, sure, cool. And that there's heady stuff, or it's big-minded, high-minded type stuff to be talking about or to worry about. And it can range from the, ideas around the temperature of the oceans to tracking meteors in space, to the economy, to wars, to social everything.
Yeah.
And it's such a swirling mess of like, we could just, any day now you could wake up and the whole world could be different. It's like, yeah, I know. And after so many days of waking up and half giving a crap, I'm kind of tired of caring. I like, it'll happen or it doesn't. I can situate myself and be ready, I guess, as if you could. But it's kind of like I'm not worrying about the bomb anymore.
There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's the ultimate thing. Is like if there was awareness of what's happening in Saudi Arabia, or if there was awareness of what's happening in Afghanistan, or there's awareness of what as soon as someone's aware,
everywhere.
Someone's going to come and fix this. But it's always that's the problem with the awareness campaigns is it's always someone else will fix it as long as everybody knows. Like that, the fact that people are aware of something is going to produce so much pressure on the handful of people that might be able to do something about it. The thing is, there's no one that can do anything about it. Right? They just don't exist. There are no human beings that can come and wave their wand and fix what's happening in Israel or fix what's happening here or there. And when you get into the middle of it, it's all a big sticky mess anyway. But I mean, it's the same thing with like the QAnon people, the child trafficking people, they're all just like, oh my God, look at all this horrible stuff that's, oh God, everyone needs to know. And it's like, but like if you listen to the Q stuff, like you start getting in this like, God knows what,
there's rabbit holes.
Launch a nuclear strike on, I can't remember some of the crazy shit they were saying. Because some guy said, the Q guy put out some little cryptic message and people interpreted it to mean, that Trump was going to get his plane shot down or something. And it's just like, people need to know that the president's plane is going to get shot down. We need to prevent this. And it's like, well, how well did that work? But they get so embroiled in it. They're just so, I think it's like what you said. It's just they're looking for some sort of meaning, some sort of purpose. And the rest of their life is a hollow existence,
Yeah, and I enjoy being aware and hearing theories, learning about stuff, and kind of just weighing the plausibility of things and having little boxes on the shelf that are like, well, here's these things. When stuff happens, I can see if it compares to anything. But man, I cannot believe anything overtly. I don't treat it like some, like one, that I got to know everything, because you can't, and half of it's crap. And then two, that there's really anything to do about it. So I just have to step back and kind of have this sense of lots going on. Things could happen. I'm ready to the extent that I can be where I'm at. And when it happens, just basically don't panic, Douglas Adams, don't panic.
Right.
People kind of want to have panic or Armageddon fetish, and I can't subscribe to that. It's just like, I like knowing stuff. I know shit's going on, but I'm not going to get wrapped up around it. And they may, if I'm orange pilling very much at all, they'll think that I'm like,
Well, you're one of them. We all are.
I guess in a Bitcoin way, I'm one of those guys, but I don't need to push it. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's like there's been discussion locally about, hey, we should have another meetup,
mm,
and I don't mind getting to like-minded people, getting together with people that are like-minded and like to talk about it, and we can bounce stuff off each other. But as far as having to promote it and try to get people to show up, and then convince them or find out that they're whoever, I just don't need that.
yeah.
if
There's
they,
not enough population out there for, to have a big enough group of like-minded people to have an enjoyable meeting. I mean, it's fun, like sitting around with your buddies, but like that's all it really is. It's not like some sort of like meeting of the minds and all the great Bitcoin thinkers in that area are coming together. It's like there's all three of us who show up.
We're going to get together in the brew pub and create the next big movement.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, nah,
no one cares.
no,
But,
no one cares.
But that's why those conferences are so great, man, because it's like you get to draw from people from all around the country, all around the world, and it's just like even just like you remember when we went to Miami, like that was regardless of anything else. Like it wasn't like I spent a lot of time on the stages and watching people and listening to the talks, but just walking around and just having those conversations and just hearing the conversations and just being around people that you go, yeah, everyone here is aligned. It's like it's nice. It just felt good to be. Where you didn't have to go and talk to somebody about some stupid, well, I heard that quantum computers are going to make AI make Bitcoin irrelevant, and then we're all going to have to sell ETH. And just hearing the dumb shit that comes out of people's mouths all the time, you just go, you don't have to, it's not there. It's nice. And
One of the points of FUD that came up in the finance office was like, well, what if AI gets entangled with it and starts just doing whatever it wants with Bitcoin? I said, okay, let's say AI takes off in some direction that involves Bitcoin and starts using Bitcoin? That's what it could do, is use Bitcoin.
Right.
So let's say AI uses Bitcoin. That doesn't hurt Bitcoin. It could strengthen it because Bitcoin's being used.
Right.
I don't know. I was like, well, I mean, AI may be a concern. Quantum computing may be a concern. All kinds of things may be a concern. Bitcoin will simply run, and you can use it or not.
Right. Well, Sailor, I reposted a thing. I should probably pull it up. And here, let's share with everybody. Let's see if I can figure out how to share.
So just as we wrap up here, Michael, I want to pivot to something a little bit more existential or personal. I've known you for the better part of 20 years. We're about the exact same age. Like, what's left for you? You're obviously economically secure. You've obviously built a company that's performed, as you said, best performing stock in the S&P. In 5 years or 10 years from now, you look back and think, okay, that's a box I wanted to check that I hadn't checked. What's left for you? What are you hoping to accomplish over the next decade?
Well, Scott, when in 2020, I was very frustrated and a bit depressed. I don't think I was alone. A lot of people were frustrated and depressed during that time period. And I was, my company was worth $600 million enterprise value, and I'd worked 30 years, and I could not break through against the Microsoft, juggernaut, and I couldn't figure out how to grow it. And after 10 years of trying, I figured maybe I should just retire and go gracefully off and just and call it a day. And I think, as I said, I discovered Bitcoin out of frustration and desperation. And first, it was just something to do. And then I realized it was a good technology. I went from, I'll buy it because I don't have a choice to do anything else, to I'm an investor. And I started thinking Bitcoin is like Facebook for money, or it's like a dominant digital monetary network. And I started becoming a tech believer in it. But then I emerged as a maximalist, Scott, which is, you wrote your book about the four, and at the end of the book, you basically are a little bit jaded. You're like, these guys got too much power and they abuse their power, and the world's not a better place for that. That's because they're companies. And if Bitcoin was a company, if it was a big digital banking network, it probably also gets corrupted. What I realized is Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. It's a commodity. It's ethically superior to a company. It's ethically superior to these big tech companies because it represents a protocol of economic empowerment for 8 billion people and everybody on Earth, regardless of your views. And so I basically went from opportunist to investor to maximalist. And now I'm of the opinion that the human race moves forward through clean energy, clean food, clean money. And human misery was our water was dirty, our food was dirty, we didn't have energy, we had dirty clothes, we had doctors with dirty hands and dirty instruments and the like, and we had dirty money. And for the last 500,000 years, all of our economics have been broken, and the human misery has taken place because copper tokens and giant stone coins and glass beads and silver coins and gold, none of these things were perfect capital assets. They were never a settlement network, and they were never a non-deflationary asset. Bitcoin represents clean money. It represents economic energy and economic empowerment. So my mission at this point is I would just like to spread it to 8 billion people. I actually think Bitcoin is hope. I think you can fix a company, fix a country, fix a family. It won't solve the other problems. It doesn't cure cancer, and it doesn't make you a good basketball player, and it doesn't resolve political differences and religious differences. I get that. What it does is it gives people a working economic fluid that doesn't drain 10% of their economic energy per year out the back door. And so I'm a big advocate for digital capital in the same way that 150 years ago, maybe I could get really excited about spreading electricity to the world. But if you found fire, you would want people to know about fire. And, Henry Ford, as I said, he put the fire in an engine and he gave us wings. He let us fly. And so the world's a better place with the automobile or the plane or aluminum or steel or computers or AI or whatever it is. I just think the world's a better place with digital capital or clean store of value money. You could say it's a fair and equitable way for us to settle our differences. And there's something nice about that.
Yeah. So that, I think.
Exactly.
Which
So,
I
yeah,
thought was
sort of
great, man. Like, I loved hearing that kind of stuff because it was just sort of, I mean, it's sort of similar to what he's always said, but it was also very, like, just sort of poignant and kind of, it's the great realignment, right? It's like it fixes money, and that's kind of what we need, right?
Yeah, like as a protocol, as an asset, as perhaps at some levels, yeah, the medium of exchange. It's like, well, what if bad people start using it? Well,
but that's kind of
they're doing it now,
is it, right? I mean, like,
they're doing it now.
There's just, I mean, like, if you kind of get away from the idea of good and bad people to begin with, right? Like, there are, everybody thinks they're a good person. Like, there are very few human beings on planet Earth that don't think, well, deep down inside, I'm a good person, right? And that's true of the killers and the rapists and the murderers and the kidnappers and the drug dealers and all these people. They don't wake up, look in the mirror, and go, Jesus Christ, I'm awful. I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to the world, But in terms of, like, the people that may not realize they're hurting people or may not care that they're hurting people or may think that they're hurting people is a net benefit for some reason, like, Bitcoin removes a lot of that ability, right? It takes it away from people that would otherwise be net harmful, and there's a line of thinking, it's semiology, it's like we should punish harm, not crimes, so to speak, right? Because if you think about, like, if someone goes and knocks off a liquor store, there's harm that's occurred, right? But what does that compare to, like, the guy that just got smoked, the United CEO, healthcare CEO, getting smoked because he's denied, 32% of the claims that come in and people are dying on his watch so he can make a little more money? like I would look at that guy and go, well, he's a quote unquote bad person, right? He doesn't think so. He thinks he's doing good for his shareholders and for himself and for his family and blah blah blah. And he's probably was, a good dad and took his kids to soccer games and whatever. But at the end of the day, from a semiological perspective, that guy was doing all kinds of harm to the world, just like the Goldman Sachs people were doing all kinds of harm to the world. And all the Treasury people and the Fed and all these people, they do harm. I mean, they really hurt people a lot. And I don't think they do it with evil intent. I think they just end up doing that because they have the ability to, and they're flawed, human beings just like the rest of us. So, if you can just strip that ability to do harm on that scale out of the equation, I think the world gets a lot better.
Yeah, Bitcoin changes the incentives at a base level.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, it makes it so you can't do it. Like, there's just nothing there. Either you acquire it legitimately or you don't. So
yeah, a lot of the badness we're used to, when it comes to money and all that, and a lot of the badness that comes out of that is based on the type of incentives that fiat systems create. So could you do semblances of those kinds of things under Bitcoin? Yeah, but the rules are all different. So then you can't get away with certain things.
Right.
And then other stuff, you're just like, well, why do we keep doing that? Why couldn't we just do something better?
Yeah.
Bitcoin changes that. So,
well, I mean, fiat has a very clear incentive structure, right? And it's theft, and it's maximize. It's like if you go back to the idea of like this is a competitive resource capture game that we're playing. It's just like EVE Online or whatever. You're trying to capture resources, and the most efficient way to do that is through force. And the people that are best able to marshal force are the people that are best able to capture the most resources. And if that's the name of the game, that's the game we're playing, that's the game we get. But, Bitcoin changes that. It goes, well, the only way to capture this resource, you can't just go bonk someone on the head and steal it. You can't just magically make it out of thin air and then force people to treat it as if it wasn't magically created out of thin air. You can't just hijack everything to your benefit, or you can't just hijack everything to your ideology. You can't hijack everything to your, way of thinking, your philosophy or your religion or whatever it is. Like all that stuff gets stripped out. Like either there's just one way to get it, and it's to be productive. And if you're not productive, you don't get it, period. You can't just go bonk people on the head and, hey, this is your Bitcoin tax. Go fuck yourself, tax this.
Yeah. Thinking of changing incentive paradigms and what could have been, what could be. So Saifedean has a new book out, The Gold Standard.
Oh,
and do you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
It's actually kind of different than his other books, more academically minded, but it's actually like a historical fiction. He's got the first 4 chapters out online in audiobook form. But the idea being that America shifts to a gold standard back in like 1914 or something, and the airplanes are new and out, and there's a through the Wright brothers and others, they create this national and then international courier service, and people can start transacting in gold, and gold becomes this standard, and it's kind of this parallel to, Bitcoin didn't exist, but under a gold standard, that type of transactional network, and it's a little fantastical, but the concept is kind of interesting. Just like what happens to the banks and the incentives and society when people are doing all this gold transaction as a gold standard in America, and what changes? And it sounds interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't really know that he was writing another book. It sounds like an interesting concept.
The gold standard.
I think if you're trying to speculate on what that looks like I think it's the same thing as trying to speculate what the future looks like on a Bitcoin standard, right? Because a lot of the development that we've had over the last 100 years is because of fiat and because of debt, right? And so, the advances we made through warfare and through space exploration and all this kind of, these are all fiat ideas and these are all fiat sort of advancements. And so would the world look like this? I don't think so, but I don't think we would have like roads getting torn up under a gold standard, or like rail tracks or, trolley tracks getting chewed up so car manufacturers could come in and sell more cars. I don't think you'd have, the Goodyear Rubber Company going down to the Philippines or whatever and just mass slaughtering people so they can have access to rubber plants. And I mean, it's such a completely different sort of way of looking at things. It's really, really hard, I think, to kind of parse out like what the world looks like. And I don't know, man. I'm about to kill a spider here, so
Get it?
oh, he's dead. So one of the things I always forget about New Mexico is, but the thing is Oregon was like rife with goddamn bugs everywhere anyway, like spiders and all these big nasty things. Like when I moved to Washington, like all the bugs were like super tiny and like sort of irrelevant. Whereas around here, you got like scorpions and centipedes and tarantulas and all this weird shit and just
Horny toads.
Yeah, but and then big ass spiders and whatnot. And in Washington, that was all gone. I was like, oh, this is so nice. Like you might get a water bug once in a while or something, but it wasn't like here. And then I went to Oregon. I thought it would be the same. Nope, there's all this like weird shit crawling around all the time.
Just
like,
different.
Just constantly inundated with bugs. So I'm not a big bug guy. They're fine outside. This is my space. You stay out. But anyway.
Yeah, my wife does not love winter. And every winter, it's like, I mean, I can handle it. I don't always love it, but it's like, it's what it is. We get 4 seasons. And every winter she goes kind of like, why are we living here? Now we have roots and reasons, but I'm like, I mean, yeah, good question. We could move to a climate that we like, honestly.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
But even when we go to, we'll go to a nice place we like, we're down in like, say, Texas or Mississippi or somewhere. And it's like, this is really nice. It's like, yeah, well, it's May. It's nice weather. There's no hurricane right now. And then you'll notice, like in Oregon, I'll think, okay, yeah, there's bugs. There can be mosquitoes, whatnot. Down there, I would notice, like, there's these little stupid flies that are just, like, fast and crazy, and they know they're going to get swat, so they're just like, bzz, bzz, bzz.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, holy crap, like, flies in Oregon, like, you swat at them, and they kind of go away for a little while.
Yeah.
And I was down near the beach, and, like, I guess it was Mississippi, and it's like, what the hell? These flies are, there's more of them, and they're a lot stupider. And it was like, well, we could live in a nice area where, it's more humid, it's on the beach, and the bugs, you could say, well, the weather's nicer and the bugs are worse, or
Well,
there's always
what I fear
something.
in El Salvador, man, is like, I feel like if I get down to El Salvador, it's like all banana spiders and mosquitoes and Zika virus, and I am an absolute 24-hour, buffet for mosquitoes. Like nom, 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 this guy's delicious. Like, I feel like I would just be a walking mosquito bite if I moved to El Salvador. So I kind of question that. Like, just I don't know. I guess I'd just have to take a shower and DEET every day. But you'd feel sticky and hot. At least it's dry where you're at, but there's trade-offs everywhere you go. Bugs don't bug me too much, but they bug my wife. Yeah,
and
well, I invite you to come down and play with some New Mexico bugs.
they're aggressive, huh?
Well, I mean,
So
like,
you see
if you ever had a scorpion in your house, you kind of go, "Oh, I don't like that thing. Like, that definitely does not belong in here." I don't know if you've ever seen like a giant desert centipede, but you definitely don't want to meet one in your closet, which I have. I've had both,
Yeah,
and,
they don't.
They're freaky, man, and they're fast. Like, they're not like little, like they just plod along. They're just like, and you go, "Oh my god, what the goddamn," And centipedes, especially, man, like those things are hard to kill, like because each little body part can just kind of run off and do its own thing. So, nasty.
You cut it in half, and now you have 2 of them scurrying around.
Yeah, I mean, it'll die eventually, but
Yeah. You see a picture of paradise, like El Salvador, paradise. Oh, I could live there. I could move there. And you move there, and then you realize, like, the bugs here are crazy. Or, I mean, I don't know, but whatever. It's going to be always something.
I think you're still subject. I mean, you got to get shots to go to El Salvador, don't you? I don't know, but I mean, there's things like water quality and all that kind of stuff. You know, you got to think about that stuff, and
Sure.
you know, so there's benefits to the fiat world that we've created here in the United States, but then again, tell that to the people of Flint, Michigan, right? Like, yeah, your water's clean except for all the toxic lead. You know,
Oh boy.
so
Yeah, groundwater contamination. Well, moving forward, I don't know what other topics to cover because I cover so much day to day Twitter feed wise, and I get all these things in my head, and then there's just a lot going on. But
is there?
it's going to be Christmas, and then the season of Trump, and we're going to be hearing and seeing a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe a trip, man.
I'll jump onto Elon's feed. Just when I'm interested in rabbit trails, I'll jump onto Elon Musk's feed and just be following that, just to kind of get a sense of like, my God, they are coiled up, ready to spring on government. I guess they, apparently X had a big effect on the size of the spending bill recently. It went from like 1.5 feet tall to much shorter to even shorter, and it's like, things are changing. So
yeah,
I feel good about it. Things are better.
I hope they can get in and be effective. I have this lurking fear that they're going to get in there and it's just going to get slammed in the courts. You know, like it's just going to. I mean, it 100%. Everything they want to do is going to get challenged, like all the way down the line. You know.
Well, one thing that Elon
walk
posted
into Twitter and say, "Hey, I own Twitter."
Right.
Fired, right. But you can't walk into the federal government and do that. It just doesn't. Like it's going to get challenged.
Yeah, it's one thing to walk into Twitter with a kitchen sink, and it's another to walk into the FBI, CIA, NSA, any other bureaucracy with a kitchen sink, and they're just like, our doors are locked. You can't go in there.
Right.
You're not getting anywhere. You're not going. Elevator doesn't go up. Sorry.
Well, there is an outside possibility. Like, if you think about how many people are compromised in Washington, D.C., by like all the Epstein shit and all that kind of stuff, like the same stuff that, the whatever foreign actor that shall remain unnamed that is wielding influence over all these people, I think that influence can be reversed, right? And I think, like, the new administration come in and go, hey, you know how you've been compromised by this foreign actor for all this time? We're going to expose that. So how about you get on board now? Or you can spend the rest of your life being a pariah in prison, and your whole world is going to collapse around you. So your choice, but we've got all the info right here, buttnut. So which is it? Do you want everyone to know about your little visit to Epstein Island? Do you want everyone to know about this? No? Good. Get on board. Just because a foreign agent has been blackmailing our business and political leaders doesn't mean that the new administration couldn't come in and wield the same exact cudgel. And probably to surprising effect. So, there is, it's sort of dirty pool, but it's kind of dirty pool that the foreign agents are playing, so why couldn't it work in our benefit?
Yeah, he posted something, just maybe it was this morning, but, people imagine they have, there's like 3 branches of government, right?
Yeah.
And then people would acknowledge, the 4th branch is media, which is now the 4th branch of media being complete propaganda, multi-headed hydra of sedition. And then there's another branch of government, which is basically the pure bureaucracy apparatus, which is untouchable, isn't elected, just gets the money they demand. And so it's like you can't necessarily pierce those, but it could, like you said, through perhaps legal recourse, we can start touching the leadership that matters. And then at another level, if
I don't think legal will ever get us there. That's you're buried if you go down through the courts. But finish your thought.
get buried. But it could also be that your funding is simply cut now. You don't get the money you think you get unless we know exactly where it goes and how it goes. And so if the money dried up and everyone can see who votes how and what Congress folk are compromised or not, it's like you're still voting for these bills that just fund $1 million toilets or whatever we don't even know?
Yeah.
Or are we actually lancing this boil?
Well, that's what I was getting at. Is like if you try and go in there above board, it's zero chance there's going to be any change in Washington D.C. It's just not going to happen. As long as these people can retain their power, they will. Like there's not a way where you're going to come in and go, okay, we propose this legislation and we're going to do this and this and like all these changes Musk wants to make and whatnot. The second he says anything that upsets the apple cart, it goes straight to court. But if you come in there, like I was suggesting, where there's, I would imagine probably greater than 75% of the United States Congress is compromised.
It's a blackmail autocracy.
Pardon?
It's like a blackmail autocracy. I feel like they're all just compromised.
Well, they're all beholden to foreign agents, right? And domestic agents. They're all beholden to their money, to the purse strings, and to the foreign agents that have compromised them. And all the, probably 75% of the Senate is compromised, and probably 75% of the CEOs are compromised, and there's the amount of shenanigans that have been going on for so long is so deep, and these people are so accustomed to just like having no one notice and no one do anything about it because they all assume that each other is just as compromised as they are, so they just go, oh, this is just the way business gets done. But if you come in and turn that against them, if you take that same lever that's being used for the self-interested benefit of the external parties and then make it and reverse that lever and make it so it benefits the United States, then I think you can see that sort of monumental change that, Musk and all these people are talking about, because it's going to be coming from top down, from the people that are the head of these bureaucracies are going to be like, this is what we're doing now. And people might challenge that, but I mean, you can't challenge that entire flood of bureaucrats that are suddenly had their compromised nature be revealed to people that are in authority, and having those people in authority go, hey, if you don't want this exposed, I mean, it's like blackmailing them to do the right thing instead of the wrong thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a legitimate path forward to getting the sort of change that people are hoping is going to happen. Because if they just try and do it like through traditional means and go through the courts and process, I mean, like they might get one or two things done, but that's every administration for the last 200 years, But
yeah, it's been there. It's the apparatus has been there so long, so entrenched. It's so big. It's pure Machiavellian like power politics, and so it's like you can't vote harder. I feel like you gotta cut to the core of what the power levers are, and there's so much of it that a lot's going to happen, and it's going to freak people out. Maybe it's going to be like, oh, so I feel this sort of potential elation over just, oh my gosh, whack-a-mole everywhere you go, just it's fish in a barrel.
Yeah,
and disruptive, and all the swirling drama around it. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I'm hopeful. I remain hopeful that they're going to come in and it would be awesome to watch the U.S. government get the Twitter treatment, because nothing would help the United States economy more than just cutting the head off that Hydra and just letting all those arms wither and die. But people will just shit their pants and they won't let it happen. So I think without pretty harsh means behind those initiatives, I think it's all doomed to fail. Just like every other administration that's come in, and like you look at Obama trying to pass all that healthcare shit, that all just got challenged, and I mean it got nerfed into nothing. And everybody that's ever tried to come in and do stuff, they get nerfed. So
the new president is schooled on what's up, and all the hope and change turns into just modern drone warfare and printing money in the bailouts. It's same old story.
Well, that's the neat thing is if they come in and they gut the Defense Department, they gut but then you're also talking about a lot of people that are sort of theoretically gainfully employed right now or not going to be gainfully employed anymore, and that's a huge ding on the economy. And once the economy tanks, and everyone else gets pissed about regardless. So I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is there's a limit to how far the ideological thing can go, or otherwise things have to be really pretty critically bad. But I mean, just look at Javier Milei in Argentina. There's a high tolerance for his gutting of things because things are so fundamentally broken. Whereas here, people can still get their Pop-Tarts, so they just don't notice. They've been able to maintain the illusion here for so long, like people just can't tell how bad they've been getting hosed,
Yeah. Looking forward to what's coming. We'll find out. So crazy times, but
Yeah.
so much potential.
We'll see. Anyway, well,
Cool.
we made it on the
An hour
road version.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, if this works for you, virtual, we'll aim for, weekend times, and we have a little flexibility on the virtual deal, but a little different, but we'll keep doing it.
Yeah. All right, man.
Cool.
Well, been fun.
Yep. Good to see you. We'll check
Yeah,
more.
you too, man. Yeah, we'll check in next week.
Bye.